There is a ton of misinformation and outdated advice when it comes to starting and growing an Etsy shop. So in this video, I kind of just want to cut through the noise and give you my best, most honest, realistic advice for anyone who wants to start an Etsy shop and grow it to 6 figures. In this video, just like all of my other videos, I'll be dropping the timestamps in the description box below. So if you're a little bit more experienced on Etsy and there's a specific piece of information that you're looking for, feel free to use those timestamps as a guide to skip ahead to the parts that you need. But if you're a brand new Etsy seller who's struggling to get sales on your shop, or if you're an aspiring Etsy seller who really just wants a no BS perspective about starting and growing a profitable Etsy shop, I highly recommend getting comfy, maybe grabbing a journal and a pen so you can take some notes, because in this video I'm going to be sharing all of my best advice that can really make all the difference in the success of your Etsy shop. So let's just get right into it. My first piece of advice is, instead of focusing on what you want to sell, I want you to focus on who you want to sell to. Now I know this might sound a little bit counterintuitive and like we're jumping the gun, but I promise you that thinking about it this way is going to make all the difference in whether or not your Etsy shop is actually profitable. The very first thing you're probably trying to figure out when you decide that you want to launch an Etsy shop is, what on earth are you going to sell in that shop? I know when I first started my Etsy shop, I spent days trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to sell as my first product. But let me tell you why focusing on what you actually want to sell on your Etsy shop can actually be the nail in the coffin that kills your shop before you even launch. When it comes to starting any business, whether it's on Etsy or some other platform, it's always going to be easier to keep a customer than it is to find a new one. So when you start your shop, it's important to think about who you want to sell to and what are all of the products that that person might want to buy, rather than focusing on what specific type of product you want to sell. For example, I talk a lot about my own Etsy shop where I sell Canva templates, but a mistake that a lot of new sellers in the digital product space make is that they pick a type of digital product that they want to sell, and then they create a bunch of versions of that product and they try to sell it to everyone. So a new seller might decide they want to sell Canva templates for social media marketing, and then they spend all their time creating a bunch of different types of Canva templates. One might be for hairstylists, one might be for nightclubs and event planners, and one might be for food trucks and restaurants. So they build this shop where they have all these different types of Canva templates with a bunch of different target demographics. Now I understand the mindset here, right? You might be thinking, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I want to appeal to the greatest number of potential shoppers as possible. And I fully understand where you're coming from with this mindset, but the Etsy algorithm is going to favor your shop if you build it around a specific customer rather than a specific type of product. So instead of making social media marketing Canva templates, maybe you should build your Etsy shop with a bunch of different types of digital products for teachers. This way you can sell them Canva templates with printable worksheets and lesson plans, but you could also expand to selling print-on-demand t-shirts and mugs, and you could also offer digital and printable planners. So you're building a shop where your first happy customer turns into a loyal customer who's familiar with your brand and continues to come back for more. Now this same logic can apply to any niche that you're building a shop in. So if you want to sell a handmade physical product like candles or soap or crocheted items, when you're trying to figure out exactly what you want to offer in your shop, I want you to first start out by thinking about who you want to sell to. So maybe your target demographic is crunchy moms, or moms who want self-care items without any of the harsh chemicals. Or maybe you're targeting a more luxury demographic with a specific aesthetic. Maybe your soaps and your candles or your crochet items all have a sort of boho theme. Or maybe you're going against the grain with a really bold, vibrant theme. Whatever it is, I want you to focus on building a shop that prioritizes attracting repeat customers. When someone finds your Etsy shop, they should really feel like it speaks to them and that it reflects their identity. All right, so now that we've established that you should be thinking about your ideal customer instead of your ideal product, this next tip kind of aligns with my first one, and that is that you should not get fancy with your Etsy shop name. Instead, I want you to focus on searchable keywords that you can integrate into your Etsy shop name, and prioritize making your shop name searchable and easy to spell. This is a huge mistake that I see a lot of new sellers make, where they'll name their Etsy shop something that means something to them, or they'll pick a name that's a little bit too generic. Some common examples of this could be like Beauty by K, or something super generic like the Sage Leaf. Giving your Etsy shop a name that's too fancy or too generic can actually hurt your Etsy shop performance, not only from the beginning, but over time. Instead, when you're naming your shop, I want you to focus on who your ideal customer is and what sort of products you're offering, and try to integrate one or two of those keywords into your shop name. So for example, if I were starting a new Etsy shop where I'm selling lesson plans and printables for teachers, some examples of what I wouldn't want to name the shop are Printables by Miss Savage or 123 Learn With Me. So in the first example, I know it can be tempting to name the shop after yourself, but doing that does absolutely nothing for boosting your shop in search. And when it comes to a name, a lot of names have a bunch of different variations in spellings, so it can be hard for customers who are trying to find you to actually find you. And in the second example, I know it sounds cute and it rhymes, but it doesn't actually communicate to the buyer exactly what you're going to be offering in your shop. Some better examples of what you might want to name your shop are Prints for Teachers, The Cool Homeschool, or All Things Teachers. Something that specifically communicates to your buyers and to the Etsy algorithm and the Google algorithm who your shop is for and what sorts of things you might be selling on your shop. And speaking of the algorithm, my next tip is that the Etsy algorithm is actually your friend, and you shouldn't feel afraid of it or intimidated by it. I've seen a lot of videos where Etsy sellers and Etsy gurus talk about how the Etsy algorithm is constantly changing and you've got to master it and you've got to stay on top of it. But once you learn the fundamentals of search engine optimization and what keywords are and how they actually work, you'll realize that the Etsy algorithm really isn't all that complicated, and it can be really easy to get your Etsy shop to rank on the first page of Etsy search. It really comes down to knowing what your customers are actually searching for on Etsy, so what exact words they're typing into the Etsy search bar to find products like yours, and then using that information to your advantage and making sure that you put those exact search terms in your Etsy listing titles and descriptions. Once you get the hang of this, you'll learn that this is actually the best way to figure out what new items to offer on your shop. Instead of pacing around and doing a bunch of research and trying to figure out what people want, you can just go on Etsy and see what's already selling well in your niche and create products around a specific keyword that you want your shop to rank for. Once you've gained a foothold in that keyword, then you can move on to the next keyword that's related to your shop and create a bunch of products that are going to rank for that search term. Again, doing this can be as simple as going on Etsy and typing in a search term that you think your audience will already be looking for. When you type in a keyword that you're interested in building your shop around, you'll likely see in the drop-down menu under the search bar a bunch of other related keywords that a bunch of people are looking for, and you can literally just copy and paste these search terms into like a Google Doc or something and use these terms to build a list of ideas for the first products that you want to offer on your shop. Now, one thing that I do wish that I did differently when I first started my shop was, instead of doing all this keyword research on my own, I could have saved a lot of time if I just used a keyword research tool. But of course, I was a brand new seller. I didn't even know what that meant, and I thought I could do all the research on my own. And I did, and my shop was successful, but I would have gotten a lot more sales a lot faster if I would have actually seen proof and evidence of what specific products and what specific search terms were getting the most sales on Etsy. So now that I'm a much more experienced seller, I do use EverBee, which is just a keyword research tool where you basically type in a search term that you think people might be looking for, and EverBee kind of takes a peek into the Etsy algorithm and shows you which products are ranking super high for that search term and even how much profit those products are generating every month. So you can skip the guesswork and you don't have to worry about spending time creating a product that's not actually going to sell or that's not going to be worth your time to create. And you'll see exactly what keywords are being used in those titles and descriptions for those products. That way you don't make the mistake of making a really great product, but then giving it the wrong title or description and preventing your audience from actually finding that product. Now, again, when you're first starting, you don't absolutely need a keyword research tool. I started without one and I didn't actually get it until several months into my Etsy journey, but they're super affordable and they're super valuable. And especially if you're selling digital products like I am, there's basically no cost to running your business. So spending $10 to $15 on a keyword research tool is absolutely worth it. I'll drop the link to the keyword research tool that I use in the description box, but there are a ton out there. Feel free to do your own research and compare and pick one that works for you, or just get started with that one. I have some more videos over on my channel where I go into detail about keyword research and how to rank on the first page of Etsy, so feel free to head over to my channel and check out those free tutorials. Alright, so I know that my ADHD girlies are not going to like this next tip, but it works amazingly for getting your new shop to rank high in the Etsy algorithm, which can be really challenging to do. So my next tip is to build up an arsenal of products before you even create your Etsy shop. Now, if you're watching this and you've already created your Etsy shop, don't panic, it's okay. But I want you to take a step back from your shop for a moment and focus on building up your inventory before you get to posting your products. I personally recommend recommend having at least 5 to 10 products ready to sell before you even create your shop. Now, this is because the Etsy algorithm always rewards consistent and active sellers. So on the day that you decide to create your shop, as soon as you have your shop name and your banner and your logo, the first thing you want to do right off the bat is post 3 products. You want to post those 3 products all on the same day. That way, if anyone comes across those products, they have the option of browsing your shop, comparing one product from the other, and even potentially making a purchase that includes multiple different items in one order. The Etsy algorithm loves this. They're going to reward your shop with more visibility if you have customers that are purchasing multiple items. Now, you've got those first 3 products posted on your first day, and then if you can, you want to continue to list new product listings every single day for as long as you can. Now, this is not realistic for most people. I totally get that, but it can be realistic if you're strategic about the way that you plan your shop. So instead of creating your shop today and rushing to create a product and just getting it posted, I want you to get your journal and write down what you want your shop name to be, write some things down about your branding, and make a list of 10 to 20 different product ideas, and then spend time going down that list and creating those products. Now, this is going to take a different amount of time for different niches, right? So if you're creating handmade crocheted items, obviously that's going to take a lot longer than creating like a Canva template. If you're designing digital planners, this is going to take a lot longer than designing something like print-on-demand t-shirts. And that's totally fine. Whatever amount of time it takes for you to build up that product arsenal of 5 to 10 to 20 products, consider it an investment, because the shops that do this and who are able to post a new product every day or a new product at least every 3 days is what I recommend. These shops will absolutely be rewarded with more visibility. And for a brand new shop, visibility is everything. So like I mentioned earlier, I personally don't sell any physical products on Etsy. I only sell digital products. And if you're an aspiring digital product seller and you need some help building up that content arsenal on Etsy, you can check out the link in the description box below this video. I'm gonna link my done for you digital product starter kits down there. Again, that's just for those of you who are short on time and you want to skip the product development, keyword research, and niche research stage and just jump right into creating your Etsy shop and actually selling those products. That kit comes with a super thorough step-by-step guide and all of the actual products that you need. And again, that's just for those of you who want to jump the line and skip ahead to get right to selling your products. But for those of you who do have the time, I really cannot stress this enough. Set aside anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months and dedicate spending at least 2 hours every single day creating and building up that content. Even after your initial launch, when you've listed your first 3 products and you've been listing a new product every single day, even after that, you should be aiming to put out a new product at least every week. Again, the Etsy algorithm is going to reward active shops. And if you initially launch your shop with those 3 products, and then you put out a new product every few days for like a week or 2, and then you just fall off the face of Etsy, you're doing what most new Etsy sellers do. And most Etsy sellers aren't scaling their Etsy shops to earn a full-time income. If you want this Etsy shop to be more than a hobby, you have to treat it like a business. And that means clocking in consistently and putting in the work ahead of time so you can actually see the results that you want. So do your niche research, find those high-performing keywords, come up with a list of as many product ideas as you can, and go down the line and create those products before you even actually make your Etsy shop. I know that this is probably like the least fun piece of advice, and it requires a lot of discipline to actually follow, especially because you're creating these products before you actually see results yourself. And that can be really, really hard to do as a new seller, but take it from me, I wouldn't steer you wrong. Running your Etsy shop like this is going to set you apart from the crowd. I promise. All right, my final piece of advice for starting a 6-figure Etsy shop is that you have to be open to learning, pivoting, and transforming your business over time. So all the advice that I just gave you about honing in on a specific customer and targeting specific keywords, all of that advice is somewhat fluid. So for example, you might be designing an Etsy shop for teachers only to find that your products actually resonate a lot more with the homeschool crowd. Or you might find that a specific listing that you posted that was getting 50 sales a month at one point has kind of tapered off and is now only getting 2 to 3 sales a month. Every single time you take a loss on Etsy, it's not actually a loss, it's a lesson. It's a piece of data, and that data is extremely powerful. And the thing that separates top Etsy sellers from people who start their Etsy shop and then just give up are that the top Etsy sellers take those failures, they analyze the data of not only their successful listings, but their unsuccessful listings, and they use it to develop and refine their strategy over time. The Etsy algorithm is forever changing, just like the Google algorithm is forever changing. And over time, consumer behavior changes as well. Certain products that might sell really well in January might not sell all that well in the summer. And some types of products that might have been really popular 5 years ago, like let's say fidget spinners, for example, might not be as popular as they are today. But if a fidget spinner seller focused on building their Etsy shop around solving problems for a specific type of customer, for example, fidget spinners are really popular in the neurodivergent community, people with ADHD and autism, those Etsy shop owners might not be selling out of their fidget spinners like they used to, but their new best-selling product might be digital planners for people with ADHD or other sensory specific items like candles or essential oils. The shops that are going to succeed at the end of the day and who are going to outlast all the competition are the shops that are open to change. So don't think that you're just going to come onto Etsy and get everything figured out immediately and then become a top seller and kick your feet up and never have to worry about anything ever again. That's not how Etsy works, and that's not how any business works. You've got to be open to change, and you've got to approach this with curiosity and a willingness to learn. Now, trust me, I know that especially when you're starting, it can feel like there's so much to learn, and I just gave you a lot of information and you might not even know where to start, but I have another video where I break down exactly what you need to do step by step, day by day, to achieve your first 100 Etsy sales in 30 days. That video is going to pop up at the end of this one, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and stick around for that video where I'll help you with launching your very first Etsy shop and ultimately becoming a top seller in your niche. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like button below and let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions about getting started with your Etsy journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.